At the divorce, my husband walked up to me and said, "Today's my best day. I'm taking everything from you." His mistress smirked. Then my lawyer whispered, "Did you do exactly what I said? Good. The show starts now." The divorce turned into his nightmare. A warning. This fictionalized case study is based on family court records involving financial fraud in divorce. According to the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, nearly 30% of divorcing spouses attempt to hide assets. This examines the warning signs of financial infidelity and why strategic preparation wins divorce cases. Now let me tell you my story. I stood in the marble hallway outside courtroom 4B, trying to keep my hands from shaking. 18 months. That's how long this divorce had dragged on. 18 months of depositions, financial disclosures, custody negotiations, and endless legal motions. Today was the final hearing, the day the judge would decide who got what after 20 years of marriage. I watched the courthouse doors open and saw my soon-to-be ex-husband Derek walk in. He wasn't alone. Simone was with him, his mistress. The woman he'd been sleeping with for the past 2 years while telling me he was working late. She was younger than me, 32 to my 42. Beautiful, confident, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Derek saw me standing there with my lawyer and he smiled. Not a friendly smile, a victorious smile. He walked straight toward me. Simone's hand in his. "Naomi," he said, stopping right in front of me. "Today's my best day. I'm taking everything from you." Simone actually laughed. A light, musical laugh that made me want to slap her. "Finally," she said, squeezing Derek's arm. "We can start our real life." Derek's eyes were cold as he looked at me. "The house, the restaurant, the savings, all mine. You should have signed the settlement when you had the chance." He meant the settlement his lawyer had offered 3 months ago. 50% of everything, including my restaurant, the business I'd built from nothing over 15 years. I hadn't signed it. My lawyer had told me not to. I stood there silent, not giving Derek the satisfaction of a reaction. My lawyer, Patricia Trish Williams, leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Did you do exactly what I said?" I nodded slightly. "Good," Trish said, her voice so quiet only I could hear. "The show starts now." Derek interpreted my silence as defeat. His smile widened. "See you in there," he said, and walked past me toward the courtroom doors. His lawyer, Robert Klein, an expensive shark in a $3,000 suit, nodded at Trish with smug confidence. They thought they'd already won. They had no idea what was coming. "I'm Naomi Chen, 42 years old, owner of Naomi's Table, a soul food restaurant that had grown from a single location to 3 thriving businesses across Houston. 20 years ago, I'd married Derek Chen thinking we'd build a life together. We met in college. I was studying business. He was in finance. We fell in love fast. Got married young. The first few years were good. We both worked, saved money, planned our future. Then I had a dream. Open a restaurant featuring my grandmother's soul food recipes, food that made people feel like family. Derek supported it at first. Said he believed in me. I took out a business loan, found a small location, spent every waking hour building Naomi's Table from the ground up. The first year was brutal. 16-hour days, learning to manage staff, handle suppliers, balance books. I did everything myself. Derek never helped. He had his own career as a financial advisor. Made good money, paid the bills while I poured everything into the restaurant. "It's your project," he'd say. "Your thing." I don't know anything about restaurants, but the restaurant succeeded. Within 5 years I opened a second location. Within 10, a third. Naomi's Table became known across Houston. Best soul food in the city. Lines out the door on weekends. We had 2 kids, Marcus, now 19 and in college, and Jasmine, 16 and in high school. Derek and I grew apart over the years. He resented the time I spent at the restaurant. I resented his lack of support, but I never thought he'd cheat. 6 months ago I found the text messages. I'd picked up Derek's phone by accident. We had the same model and saw a notification from Simone. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I love you so much." My heart stopped. I opened the messages and found hundreds, years of them. Derek and Simone, planning dates, saying "I love you," making plans for after the divorce. The divorce I didn't even know he wanted. When I confronted him, Derek didn't even try to deny it. "I'm done, Naomi," he said flatly. "I've been done for years. Simone makes me happy. You're just work. I want a divorce, and I'm getting half of everything, including that restaurant." I was devastated. 20 years of marriage, thrown away like garbage. But Derek wasn't just leaving me, he was planning to take half my business, the business I'd built entirely by myself. We have a prenup, I reminded him. He smiled coldly. The prenup says assets brought into marriage stay separate, but assets acquired during marriage are split 50-50. You built that restaurant while we were married, Naomi. It's community property. I'm taking $2.2 million. My half. The restaurant was worth about $4.5 million. He wanted half. Derek moved out the next day, moved in with Simone, filed for divorce a week later, demanded 50% of the restaurant, 50% of our house worth $800,000 and 50% of our savings. I was drowning, panicking. I built everything and he was going to take half just because he'd been married to me while I did it. That's when I called Trish Williams. Trish Williams had a reputation in Houston. She didn't lose. She was 50 years old, black, brilliant, and absolutely ruthless in court. I met her in her downtown office, surrounded by law books and case files. Tell me everything, she said. I did. The affair. The divorce. Derek's demands. The prenup that apparently didn't protect my restaurant. Trish listened carefully, taking notes. Derek's claiming the restaurant is marital property because you built it during the marriage. Yes. He says the prenup doesn't protect assets acquired after we signed it. He's technically right, Trish said. In Texas, community property law means assets acquired during marriage are typically split 50-50 unless there's a specific agreement otherwise. My heart sank. So I lose my restaurant? Trish smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. I didn't say that. Tell me, during your marriage, was Derek involved in the restaurant at all? No. He never worked there, never helped with decisions. He called it my little project like it was a hobby. Good. And your finances, did you keep them separate or joint? Mostly joint bank accounts, but the restaurant has its own business accounts that I manage. Trish leaned forward. Naomi, I need to ask you something important. Do you think Derek has been completely honest about his finances? I thought about it. What do you mean? I mean, has he been hiding money, moving assets, preparing for this divorce longer than you realize? I remembered things I'd overlooked. Expensive gifts Derek had given Simone, a designer purse I'd seen in a photo jewelry, unexplained cash withdrawals from our account, business trips that now seemed suspicious. I think he's been planning this for at least a year, I said quietly. Then here's what we're going to do, Trish said. I'm hiring a forensic accountant. We're going to find every penny Derek has hidden, and if he's been lying, which I suspect he has, we're going to bury him. Trish hired Martin Lee, a forensic accountant who specialized in divorce cases. Martin was 48, Asian, meticulous to the point of obsession. He testified in over 200 divorce cases. Prosecutors called him the Bloodhound, because once he picked up a financial trail, he never let go. Your husband thinks he's smart, Martin told me at our first meeting. Financial advisors always do. They think because they work in finance they know how to hide money. But they make mistakes. Everyone does. And I find those mistakes. Martin spent 3 months combing through every financial record Derek and I had touched in the past 5 years. Bank statements, credit cards, investment accounts, tax returns, everything. He requested Derek's work records, bonus documentation, expense reports. He analyzed spending patterns, looking for discrepancies. What he found made my blood boil. Martin called a meeting with Trish and me to present his findings. He brought 3 thick binders of documentation. Your husband has been systematically hiding assets, Martin said, spreading documents across the conference table. He started 18 months ago, 6 months before he asked for divorce. What did he hide? I asked. Let's start with the obvious. Martin pulled up a bank statement. Secret account at Chase Bank in his name only. He's been depositing money for 18 months. Current balance, $180,000. I stared at the number. Where did that money come from? His bonuses at work. According to his employment records, he received bonuses totaling $320,000 over the past 3 years. He told you they were smaller. He deposited the difference, about $60,000 a year, into this secret account. My hands clenched. Derek had been lying about his income for years. There's more, Martin continued. Investment account at Fidelity you didn't know about, $95,000. Also funded over the past 18 months with money he claimed he was using for retirement planning. And the big one, Martin pulled out another statement. Offshore account in the Cayman Islands, $250,000. I couldn't breathe. $250,000? Yes. And here's the problem. Derek never disclosed this in his financial affidavit to the court. That's not just hiding assets from you, that's lying to the judge. It's perjury. Trish's eyes gleamed. Keep going. Cash withdrawals from joint accounts over 18 months, $75,000. I traced where that money went. Martin showed me photos, receipts, credit card statements, bank deposits. He gave it to Simone, paid her apartment deposit, $5,000, car down payment, $15,000, bought her expensive jewelry, another $20,000, various cash gifts, $35,000. He spent $75,000 of our money on his mistress? My voice shook. Yes. And there's one more thing. Martin pulled out a bank transfer document. Derek transferred $50,000 to his mother's account 3 months ago. The memo line says loan, but I checked with his mother's bank. She never made any loan payments back. He was hiding it. Martin looked at me seriously. In total, your husband has hidden or misappropriated approximately $600,000. That's $600,000. He swore under oath. He didn't have. The room spun. $600,000. Derek had been stealing from our marriage to prepare for the divorce. What does this mean? I asked. Trish smiled, that cold smile again. It means we have him. Financial fraud in a divorce case is serious. Lying on financial affidavits is perjury. A third-degree felony in Texas, punishable by 2 to 10 years in prison. Using marital funds to support an affair is grounds for disproportionate division of assets. The judge can punish him by giving you more than 50%. In other words, Trish said, Derek just lost everything. But Trish wasn't satisfied yet. She looked at Martin. Dig deeper. I want to know about every dollar he's spent in the past 2 years. Every restaurant, every hotel, every gift. Document it all. Martin nodded. Already on it. Over the next month, Martin built a timeline that was damning. 2 years ago, first expensive dinner with Simone at a steakhouse. $250. Charged to our joint credit card listed as client dinner. 18 months ago, weekend trip to Miami with Simone, $3,000. Hotel, flights, restaurants. Derek told me it was a financial advisor conference. I'd seen the conference registration. What I hadn't known, Simone went with him, stayed in the same hotel room. 16 months ago, diamond bracelet purchased for $8,000. Given to Simone for her birthday. I'd seen her wearing it in a Facebook photo. 15 months ago, Derek opened the secret Chase account. First deposit, $15,000. 14 months ago, Derek opened the offshore Cayman account. Initial transfer $100,000. The timeline went on and on. Every lie, every hidden expense, every dollar stolen. Martin also found Derek's text messages with Simone, recovered from phone records that Derek thought he'd deleted. The messages were damning. Derek to Simone. 14 months ago, my lawyer says she'll get destroyed in court. The prenup doesn't cover the restaurant. I'm getting $2.2 million easy. Simone to Derek. Once you get the money, we can open our own place. Compete against her. Show her who's really the brains of the operation. Derek to Simone. She has no idea. Thinks I'm just a supportive husband. Meanwhile, I've been moving money for months. She'll never find it. Simone. You're so smart, baby. She never saw you coming. They'd been planning this for over a year. Planning to take my money and use it to destroy my business. When I read those messages, I felt a rage I'd never experienced before. But Trish put her hand on my shoulder. Channel it. Don't show it. Let Derek think you're defeated. Let him walk into court arrogant and confident, because that's when we destroy him. While Martin was uncovering Derek's financial crimes, Trish had me following a different strategy. I need you to do exactly what I say, Trish told me 6 months before the final hearing. Even when it seems strange, even when it seems like we're losing, trust me. Her instructions. First, don't let Derek know you found the hidden accounts. Act defeated. Let him think he's winning. This was torture. I wanted to confront him, wanted to scream about the money he'd stolen, the lies he'd told, but I stayed silent. Acted sad and resigned when we had to communicate about the kids. Derek bought it completely. He started getting cocky, telling friends he was taking Naomi for everything. Second, document everything at the restaurant. Every hour you work, every decision you make, every aspect of how you built the business. For 6 months I kept meticulous records. I logged every hour I worked, averaging 60 hours per week. I documented every business decision. hiring decisions, menu changes, supplier negotiations, marketing strategies. I saved emails proving I'd made every significant choice alone. Derek wasn't copied on a single business email. Third, get affidavits from your employees, showing Derek was never involved. This was easier. Every employee knew the truth. I approached each of my 35 employees privately. Explained I was going through a divorce and needed documentation of who ran the restaurant. Every single one of them signed affidavits stating the same thing. Derek Chen has never worked at Naomi's table. He has never participated in business decisions. He has never contributed to restaurant operations. The business was built entirely by Naomi Chen. I also got statements from my suppliers, my accountant, my business attorney, everyone who'd watched me build the restaurant from scratch. Everyone confirmed. Naomi built this alone. Fourth, let him get arrogant. Arrogant people make mistakes. This was the hardest part. Watching Derek brag to friends about how he was going to take half of Naomi's precious restaurant. Watching him post on social media with Simone at expensive restaurants I was unknowingly paying for through his theft. But Trish had hired a private investigator who documented everything. Photos of Derek and Simone at luxury hotels. Receipts from 5-star restaurants. Evidence of a lifestyle far beyond what Derek's disclosed income could support. Every arrogant social media post. Every expensive purchase. Every trip. All documented. All evidence of financial fraud. Derek was so confident he got sloppy. He told friends, mutual friends who later became my witnesses, that he'd outsmarted me, that I was too stupid to realize what was happening. One friend, Michael, was so disgusted by Derek's bragging that he contacted Trish and offered to testify. Derek told me he'd been hiding money for over a year. Michael said in his deposition. He said Naomi was so busy with her restaurant that she'd never notice. He laughed about it, called her too trusting for her own good. Everything Derek said was being documented. Every arrogant statement, every cruel joke, all ammunition for court. But the most important thing Trish had me do was restructure the restaurant business legally. Before Derek filed for divorce, we need to protect your intellectual property. Trish explained. She had me create a formal LLC with me as 100% owner. We transferred all my recipes, my grandmother's recipes that I'd spent years perfecting, into a separate intellectual property trust. We did the same with my brand, my reputation, my personal goodwill in the Houston food community. All legal, all properly documented, all done before Derek filed for divorce. Trish explained the strategy. Under Texas law, intellectual property created through personal skill and effort can be considered separate property even if created during marriage. Your recipes, your brand, those came from your mind and your work. Not marital partnership, the restaurant business structure, the locations, equipment, contracts, that's arguably community property. But without your recipes and brand, that structure is worth maybe 10% of the total value. She was right. An expert business valuator confirmed it. The 3 restaurant locations, equipment, and existing vendor contracts were worth about $400,000, but the recipes, the brand Naomi's Table, the reputation I'd built, that was worth $4.1 million, and it was now legally separate property. Derek would have a claim to the business structure, but without my intellectual property that structure was nearly worthless. Now we wait, Trish said. Let him file. Let him demand half. Let him think he's won. And then we destroy him. The courtroom was packed. Judge Patricia Morrison presided, a black woman in her 60s with a reputation for not tolerating bullshit. Derek's lawyer, Klein, presented their case first. Your Honor, Klein said smoothly, Mr. Chen is entitled to 50% of all marital assets acquired during the 20-year marriage. This includes the restaurant business valued at $4.5 million, the marital home valued at $800,000, savings accounts, and retirement accounts. While there was a prenuptial agreement, it does not protect assets acquired after the marriage began. Mrs. Chen built her restaurant during the marriage. It is community property under Texas law. Klein painted Derek as the supportive husband who encouraged his wife's dreams. Mr. Chen supported Mrs. Chen emotionally and financially while she pursued her passion. He paid the household bills, allowing her to invest in the business. He believed in her vision. While he didn't work directly at the restaurant, he was her partner in life. That restaurant exists because of the stability he provided. It was a good argument. Technically sound. Based on real Texas community property law. If we hadn't found Derek's hidden assets, it might have worked. Then Derek took the stand. He wore an expensive suit. Irmani. I recognized it. Probably cost $3,000. paid for with money he'd hidden from me. He looked confident, almost bored. His testimony was smooth, rehearsed. I supported Naomi's restaurant dream from day one, he said. I encouraged her, believed in her when others didn't. I didn't work at the restaurant because I'm not a chef or a manager. That was her expertise. But I was her emotional support, her sounding board when she had doubts. We built this life together. That restaurant exists because I gave her the freedom and stability to pursue it. It's as much mine as hers. Klein showed the financial affidavit Derek had filed, his official statement of assets and income. According to the document, Derek's net worth was about $400,000. His income as a financial advisor was $120,000 per year. He had one savings account, one retirement account, properly disclosed. Everything looked clean, because he'd hidden everything else. Mr. Chen has been honest and forthcoming in his financial disclosures, Klein said. He's asking only for what's fair, 50% of marital assets. Klein rested their case, looking satisfied. Derek stepped down from the witness stand and walked past me. He leaned close enough that only I could hear. You're done. I hope you enjoyed your little restaurant, because half of it's mine now. I said nothing. Trish caught my eye and gave the smallest nod. Now it was our turn. Trish stood up. She moved like a predator who'd been waiting patiently for the right moment to strike. Your Honor, before we present our case, I'd like to address Mr. Chen's financial affidavit. Klein objected immediately. Your Honor, Miss Williams is attempting to cast aspersions without foundation. I have foundation, Trish said calmly. Substantial foundation, Your Honor. I believe Mr. Chen's financial affidavit contains significant inaccuracies that this court needs to hear about. Judge Morrison leaned forward, interested. Proceed. Trish called Martin Lee to the stand. Martin was calm, professional, absolutely devastating. He presented his findings methodically, like a surgeon with a scalpel. Your Honor, I'm a certified forensic accountant specializing in divorce cases. I was hired by Mrs. Chen to examine the financial records of both parties. What did you find? Trish asked. I found that Mr. Chen has systematically hidden assets and misrepresented his financial position to this court. Martin presented document after document, bank statements showing the secret Chase account Derek had opened 18 months ago. Current balance, $180,000. Mr. Chen never disclosed this account in his financial affidavit. Investment statements showing another undisclosed Fidelity account, $95,000, also not disclosed. Wire transfer records showing deposits to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, $250,000, hidden offshore, never disclosed to this court or to Mrs. Chen. The courtroom murmured. Judge Morrison's expression darkened. Martin continued. Cash withdrawal records from joint accounts, meticulously traced, $75,000 withdrawn over 18 months. I traced these funds. They were given to Miss Simone Grant, Mr. Chen's mistress, for various expenses. Apartment deposit, car down payment, jewelry, cash gifts, marital funds used to support an extramarital affair. And finally, a bank transfer showing $50,000 moved to Derek's mother's account, labeled as a loan but with no repayment schedule or promissory note. An apparent attempt to hide assets from divorce proceedings. The courtroom was silent except for the rustling of papers. Judge Morrison took notes carefully, her face like stone. Mr. Lee, in your professional opinion, did Mr. Chen accurately represent his financial position to this court? No, Your Honor. He misrepresented his assets by approximately $600,000. Is filing a false financial affidavit a crime? Yes, Your Honor. It's perjury. In Texas, perjury in a court proceeding is a third-degree felony punishable by 2 to 10 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. I watched Derek's face go from confident to pale to gray. Klein was whispering urgently to him, flipping through documents, clearly scrambling. Simone, sitting in the gallery, looked like she'd seen a ghost. Your Honor, Klein tried desperately. My client may have simply forgotten about some accounts. Forgotten $250,000 in the Cayman Islands? Judge Morrison's voice was ice. We'll address that. Continue, Miss Williams. Trish wasn't done. Your Honor, I'd like to recall Mr. Chen to the stand. Derek returned to the witness stand. He was sweating now, his expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume. Judge Morrison reminded him, Mr. Chen, you're still under oath. Perjury is a felony in this state. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Trish approached him slowly, deliberately, like a cat that had cornered a mouse and was savoring the moment. Mr. Chen, you testified earlier that your net worth is approximately $400,000. Is that correct? That's what I disclosed. Yes. Is it accurate? Derek hesitated. His lawyer had clearly told him to minimize. But he was under oath. I believe so. You believe so? Trish let that hang in the air. Mr. Chen, do you have a bank account at Chase Bank account number ending in 4782? Derek's jaw tightened. Yes. Did you disclose that account in your financial affidavit filed with this court? I may have forgotten. Mr. Chen, this is a yes or no question. Did you disclose that account? No. How much money is in that account? Approximately $180,000. Do you have an investment account at Fidelity account ending in 934? Yes. Disclosed in your affidavit? No. Balance? $95,000. Do you have an offshore account in the Cayman Islands? Derek looked at his lawyer. Klein couldn't help him. Yes. Disclosed? No. Balance? Around $250,000. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Judge Morrison banged her gavel once for silence. Mr. Chen, Trish continued, her voice sharp now. When did you open these hidden accounts? About 18 months ago. 18 months? That's 6 months before you asked your wife for a divorce. Correct? Yes. So you were planning this divorce while actively hiding assets from your wife for 6 months before you told her. Derek had no good answer. I was preparing financially by committing fraud. Objection. Klein stood up. Sustained. Judge Morrison said. Rephrase, Miss Williams. Mr. Chen, where did the money in these hidden accounts come from? My income. Bonuses. But you told your wife your bonuses were smaller than they actually were, didn't you? I may have simplified the numbers. You lied. Yes or no? I didn't give her all the details. That's a lie, Mr. Chen. You told her you received $80,000 in bonuses over 3 years when you actually received $320,000. You deposited the difference into accounts she didn't know existed. That's lying. Derek said nothing. Over the past 18 months, did you withdraw approximately $75,000 in cash from joint accounts? Some cash? Yes. $75,000. Where did that money go? Various expenses? Did any of it go to Simone Grant? Klein objected. Relevance, Your Honor. It's relevant because he used marital funds to support an affair. Trish said. That goes directly to the equitable division of assets. Overruled. Answer the question, Mr. Chen. Derek looked trapped. Some of it may have gone to Simone. Some? Mr. Chen, didn't you pay for Miss Grant's apartment deposit $5,000? Her car down payment $15,000? Expensive jewelry $20,000? Various cash gifts $35,000? All with marital funds. Yes. So you stole $75,000 from your wife to give to your mistress. I didn't steal. It was joint money that you spent on another woman without your wife's knowledge or consent. Derek said nothing. And Mr. Chen, did you transfer $50,000 to your mother's bank account 3 months ago? Yes. Why? She needed help with expenses. Your mother is financially stable, isn't she? She owns her home outright. Has retirement income of approximately $5,000 per month. Yes, but, so why did you give her $50,000 3 months before your final divorce hearing? I wanted to help her, or were you hiding it from divorce proceedings? Derek's silence was answer enough. Trish turned to Judge Morrison. Your Honor, Mr. Chen has committed perjury by filing a false financial affidavit. He's hidden approximately $600,000 in assets from this court, and from his wife. He's used marital funds to support an extramarital affair. This is financial fraud on a massive scale. Judge Morrison looked at Derek with unconcealed contempt. Mr. Chen, you will remain available to this court. I am seriously considering referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. We'll address that after I hear the rest of the evidence. You may step down. Derek stumbled back to his seat. He looked like he might vomit. Klein was furiously taking notes, trying desperately to salvage an unsalvageable case. Simone, sitting in the gallery, looked horrified. I could see her mind working, calculating. She'd been with Derek for the money. Now that money was evaporating. Trish called me to the stand next. I'd been dreading this moment, but Trish had prepared me well. We'd rehearsed my testimony a dozen times. Mrs. Chen, please tell the court about Naomi's table. I took a deep breath and spoke from the heart. I built Naomi's table from nothing. It started as a dream to share my grandmother's soul food recipes with Houston. Food that makes people feel like family. I took out a small business loan in my name. Found a tiny location in 3rd Ward. Spent every waking hour building it from the ground up. The first 5 years I worked 80-hour weeks. I was the chef, the manager, the bookkeeper, the janitor, everything. I developed every recipe myself, took my grandmother's handwritten recipes and perfected them for restaurant service. I hired every employee personally, trained them, built a team, made every single business decision. Derek never worked at the restaurant. He had his own career as a financial advisor. He came to eat occasionally, but he wasn't involved in operations. He called Naomi's table my little project. My voice got stronger as I spoke. This was my story, my truth. Did Mr. Chen contribute financially to the restaurant? Trish asked. No. The restaurant was funded by a business loan in my name alone. All profits were reinvested into growth. The expansion to second and third locations was funded through restaurant revenue and additional business loans, all in my name. Did he contribute intellectually? Ideas? Strategy, management advice? No. He told me multiple times he didn't understand the restaurant business and wasn't interested in learning about it. He said it was my thing, and he'd stick to finance. Did he ever make business decisions for the restaurant? Never. Not once in 15 years. Trish presented evidence. Time logs I'd meticulously kept over the past 6 months, showing I worked an average of 60 hours per week at the restaurants. Affidavits from all 35 employees. Signed and notarized. Every single one said the same thing. Derek Shen never worked at Naomi's table. He never participated in business decisions. He never contributed to operations. The restaurant was built entirely by Naomi Chen. Statements from suppliers who'd worked with me for years. We only ever dealt with Naomi. Derek was never involved in negotiations or ordering. Statements from my accountant. Naomi made all financial decisions for the business. Derek was not involved in business finances. Statements from my business attorney. Naomi was my sole client regarding the restaurant business. Derek never participated in legal matters. Business documents showing me as the sole signatory on every important contract, every lease, every vendor agreement. Then Trish presented the business restructuring we'd done, Your Honor, 8 months ago before Mr. Chen filed for divorce. Mrs. Chen made some legal business changes on the advice of her business attorney. She showed the LLC formation documents, the intellectual property trust. Mrs. Chen created a formal business structure and transferred her intellectual property, her grandmother's recipes which she spent years perfecting for commercial use, her brand Naomi's Table and her personal reputation in Houston's food community into a separate trust, all legal, all properly documented, all done before any divorce filing. Trish called an expert business valuator to the stand. Thomas Reed was a certified business appraiser with 30 years of experience. He'd valued hundreds of businesses in divorce cases. Mr. Reed, you evaluated Naomi's Table at the request of Mrs. Chen. What did you find? I performed a comprehensive business valuation. The total business value is approximately $4.5 million. However, when you break down the components, it's clear that the vast majority of that value, approximately $4.1 million, is attributable to Mrs. Chen's intellectual property. Can you explain that? Certainly. The 3 restaurant locations, equipment, existing inventory and vendor contracts are worth approximately $400,000. These are the tangible assets, but the real value, the reason people line up at Naomi's Table is the recipes, Mrs. Chen's grandmother's recipes that she perfected, the brand she built, her reputation for quality and authenticity. That intellectual property is worth $4.1 million. Can the business operate without Mrs. Chen's intellectual property? No. The restaurants depend entirely on her recipes and her brand reputation. If you removed those elements, you'd have 3 generic locations with no distinguishing features. Customers come for Naomi's food, not just any food. And under Texas law, is intellectual property created during marriage considered separate property or community property? If the intellectual property is created solely through one spouse's personal skill, effort and creativity, as opposed to through marital partnership, it's generally considered separate property belonging to the spouse who created it. Trish turned to Judge Morrison. Your Honor, while the business structure may technically be community property subject to division, its value is minimal without Mrs. Chen's separate intellectual property. Mr. Chen has no legitimate claim to recipes he never helped create, to a brand he never helped build, or to a reputation he never helped earn. Klein tried to argue, Your Honor, the restaurant was built during the marriage using marital resources. What marital resources? Trish interrupted. Every business loan was in Mrs. Chen's name. Every decision was hers. Mr. Chen never worked a single day at the restaurant. He never contributed a single dollar. The only marital resource was Mrs. Chen's time, and she's the one who invested it. Judge Morrison was taking extensive notes, but Trish still wasn't done. Your Honor, I'd like to address Mr. Chen's relationship with Simone Grant, and how it relates to the financial fraud. She presented the timeline Martin had built. Text messages recovered from phone records. Messages showing the affair started 2.5 years ago, longer than Derek had admitted, but more importantly, messages showing the planning. Trish displayed them on a screen for the whole courtroom to see. Simone to Derek, 14 months ago, once you get half the restaurant money, we can finally open our own place. Can't wait to compete against her Lolat. Derek to Simone, she'll never see it coming. That prenup doesn't cover businesses built during marriage. We're getting 2.2 million easy. Then we open something even better and put her out of business. Simone, you're so smart, baby. I love that you're finally taking what you deserve. Derek, been planning this for months. Moving money where she can't find it. She's so busy with her precious restaurant she doesn't even check the bank statements anymore. Simone, she sounds like an idiot. You definitely married the wrong woman. Lol, the messages went on and on. Planning the divorce. Discussing how to hide money. Laughing about how trusting I was. Planning to use my money to destroy my business. The courtroom was dead silent as Trish scrolled through message after message. Your Honor, this wasn't just an affair. This was a conspiracy to commit financial fraud and use the proceeds to harm Mrs. Chen's business. Trish called Simone to the stand as an adverse witness. Simone was hostile from the moment she sat down. She crossed her arms defensively. Miss Grant, are you in a romantic relationship with Mr. Chen? Yes. How long have you been involved with him? 2.5 years. Did you know he was married when the relationship began? Yes. But their marriage was already over. Yes or no answers only. Please. You knew he was married? Yes. Did Mr. Chen spend money on you during your relationship? He gave me gifts, but yes or no? Did he spend money on you? Yes. Did he pay for your apartment deposit? Yes. How much? $5,000. Did he pay for your car down payment? Yes. How much? $15,000. Did he buy you jewelry? Yes. Expensive jewelry, diamond bracelet, earrings? Yes. Total value, maybe $20,000. Did he give you cash on various occasions? Sometimes. How much total? I don't know exactly. Would $35,000 sound accurate? Simone hesitated. Maybe. So Mr. Chen spent approximately $75,000 on you over 2 years, I guess. Did you know that money came from joint accounts he shared with his wife? I didn't ask where, but you knew he was married. You knew he had joint accounts. You spent the money anyway. He said it was his money. It was their money. Marital funds. You spent $75,000 of another woman's money. Simone glared at Trish but said nothing. Miss Grant, did you and Mr. Chen discuss opening a restaurant together? We talked about possibilities. Trish showed the text messages on screen. You texted, and I quote, "Once you get half the restaurant money, we can finally open our own place. Can't wait to compete against her." Did you write that? I was just talking. Yes or no? Did you write that? Yes. You were planning to use Mrs. Chen's money to open a competing business. We were just brainstorming. You wrote, "Can't wait to compete against her." That sounds like a plan, not brainstorming. It was just talk. Did Mr. Chen tell you he was hiding assets from his wife? I don't know what. Miss Grant, did you know about the offshore account? Simone's face went red. He mentioned he had investments. Did you know about the secret bank accounts? No, but you benefited from them. The money he spent on you came from those accounts, didn't it? I don't know where every dollar came from. You knew he was hiding money from his wife. You knew he was lying in court. And you spent it anyway because you wanted the lifestyle. Klein objected. Badgering the witness. Sustained, Judge Morrison said. Move on, Miss Williams. But the damage was done. Simone looked like exactly what she was. A gold digger who'd helped a man defraud his wife. Trish excused her. After both sides rested, Judge Morrison took a 2-hour recess to review everything. We waited in a conference room. Trish was confident but cautious. The evidence is overwhelming, she said. But judges can be unpredictable. Don't celebrate yet. When we returned to the courtroom, Judge Morrison's face was granite. She began speaking and I could hear the controlled fury in her voice. I've been on the bench for 23 years, she said. I've presided over hundreds of divorce cases, complex cases, emotional cases, high asset cases, but I have rarely seen such blatant, premeditated fraud and perjury as I've witnessed from Mr. Chen in this case. Derek sat rigid, pale as death. Mr. Chen, you didn't just lie to your wife. You lied to this court. You filed a financial affidavit under oath, under penalty of perjury that misrepresented your assets by $600,000. You opened secret accounts. You moved money offshore. You spent marital funds on your mistress while your wife worked 60-hour weeks building a business you now claim to own half of. You planned with your mistress to use your wife's money to compete against her business. You conspired to commit financial fraud. Judge Morrison's voice was ice. Perjury is a third-degree felony in Texas, punishable by 2 to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. I am referring this case to the Harris County District Attorney for immediate criminal prosecution. That is not part of this civil proceeding, but you will face those consequences. Klein tried to speak, but the judge cut him off with a look. As for the division of assets in this divorce, Judge Morrison looked at her notes, then directly at Derek. Mrs. Chen built Naomi's table entirely through her own labor, skill, creativity and intellectual property. While the business structure may technically be community property under Texas law, the overwhelming value is in her separate intellectual property, recipes, brand, reputation, which Mr. Chen never contributed to in any way. Furthermore, Mr. Chen's egregious misconduct, systematic fraud, perjury, misappropriation of marital funds, warrants a highly disproportionate division of assets under Texas Family Code Section 7. Here is my ruling. The courtroom held its breath. The restaurant business known as Naomi's Table. Mrs. Chen is awarded 95% ownership and control. Mr. Chen is awarded 5% of the business structure value calculated at $400,000. His share is $20,000. Derek's face went white as paper. However, Judge Morrison continued. Mr. Chen must first repay $600,000 he fraudulently hid or misappropriated from marital assets. Since his debt of $600,000 far exceeds his $20,000 share of the restaurant, he receives $0 from the restaurant and still owes $580,000 to be paid from other assets. The marital home valued at $800,000 awarded entirely to Mrs. Chen as punishment for Mr. Chen's financial fraud. Mr. Chen will vacate the premises within 30 days. Savings and retirement accounts totaling approximately $350,000, divided 70% to Mrs. Chen, 30% to Mr. Chen, that's $245,000 to Mrs. Chen, $105,000 to Mr. Chen. The $600,000 Mr. Chen hid in various accounts. All of it is awarded to Mrs. Chen. Mr. Chen will liquidate all hidden accounts and transfer the funds to Mrs. Chen within 60 days. Child support for the minor child Jasmine. Mr. Chen will pay $3,000 per month until she reaches age 18 or graduates high school, whichever is later. Spousal support. Mr. Chen will pay Mrs. Chen $4,000 per month for 5 years to offset the financial harm caused by his fraud in the marital standard of living. Legal fees. Mr. Chen will pay Mrs. Chen's reasonable attorney fees and costs in full. According to the documentation provided, that's $85,000. Judge Morrison looked directly at Derek with undisguised contempt. In summary, Mr. Chen, you are receiving essentially nothing from this 20-year marriage except substantial debt. You owe your ex-wife approximately $500,000 when all offsets are calculated. You will pay child support and spousal support, totaling $84,000 annually for the next 5 years. You will pay her legal fees of $85,000, and you may face criminal prosecution for perjury. Do you understand this ruling? Derek could barely speak. Yes, Your Honor. Good. This divorce is granted. Mrs. Chen, you're free to go rebuild your life. Mr. Chen, I suggest you hire a criminal defense attorney. We're adjourned. The gavel came down with finality. The aftermath was swift and brutal for Derek. Within 1 week, the Harris County District Attorney filed criminal charges, perjury in official proceedings, a third-degree felony. Derek's employer, a prestigious financial advisory firm, found out about the charges. They fired him immediately. We cannot employ a financial advisor under indictment for financial fraud. His professional licenses, Series 7, Series 66 insurance licenses were suspended pending the criminal case. Derek went from making $120,000 a year to zero income overnight. Simone broke up with him 2 weeks after the court ruling. I heard through mutual friends that she'd sent him a text. I can't do this anymore. You have nothing. I need someone stable. Good luck. Just like that. 2.5 years. Gone the moment the money disappeared. Within a month, Simone was dating someone else. Someone wealthy. She posted photos on social media from expensive vacations. She'd never cared about Derek. Only his money. Money he'd stolen from me. Derek had to move out of our house. My house now. He found a small apartment in a less desirable part of town. One bedroom, barely furnished. His mother, under court order, had to return the $50,000 he'd hidden with her. She was furious with him for involving her in his fraud. Derek's friends distanced themselves. Nobody wants to be associated with someone facing felony charges. He was alone, broke, facing prison. 6 months after the divorce, Derek accepted a plea deal with the DA. He pleaded guilty to perjury. In exchange for his guilty plea, the DA recommended probation instead of prison. The judge sentenced him to 2 years supervised probation, a $10,000 fine and 200 hours of community service. Derek avoided prison, but he had a felony conviction on his record. His career in finance was over. No firm would hire a financial advisor with a fraud conviction. He ended up working in sales at a furniture store, making about $40,000 a year before taxes. After child support, $3,000 monthly, and spousal support, $4,000 monthly, Derek had almost nothing left to live on. He was bitter, angry. He told anyone who'd listen that I'd trapped him, that my lawyer had ambushed him with technicalities. But everyone knew the truth. He trapped himself with his own greed, arrogance, and fraud. Meanwhile, my life transformed completely. Naomi's table flourished. Without the stress of the divorce hanging over me, I poured my energy back into the business. I opened a 4th location, expanded the menu, hired more staff. Houston Magazine featured me in a cover story. Naomi Chen, building Houston's soul food empire. Food critics came from across Texas to review my restaurants. The Houston Chronicle gave us 4 stars. My kids Marcus and Jasmine were proud of me. They'd watched the whole divorce play out. They'd seen their father's lies exposed in court. Marcus called me from college. "Mom, I'm so proud of you. You didn't let him destroy what you built." Jasmine chose to live with me full-time. She barely spoke to Derek. "He tried to steal your restaurant, Mom," she said. "He lied about everything. Why would I want to spend time with him?" I didn't badmouth Derek to the kids. I didn't need to. They'd seen his character themselves. I paid off all the legal fees Trish had charged, $85,000 that Derek was supposed to pay but couldn't because he had no money. I recovered financially within a year. The restaurant was more profitable than ever. I even started dating again. A good man named James, who owned a construction company. He was kind, honest, supportive of my business. We were taking it slow, but it felt healthy. Real. Nothing like the hollow shell my marriage to Derek had become. 1 year after the divorce, I stood in my restaurant on a busy Friday night. Every table was full. The kitchen was running smoothly. Customers were laughing, enjoying food that reminded them of home. This was what I'd built, what I'd protected. In a corner booth, I saw a young couple. The man was down on one knee, holding a ring box. "Will you marry me?" he asked. The woman's hands flew to her mouth. "Yes. Oh my God, yes." The whole restaurant erupted in applause and cheers. I watched them embrace, crying happy tears, and I smiled. I thought about Derek, about that moment in the courthouse hallway when he'd walked up to me and said, "Today's my best day. I'm taking everything from you." He'd taken nothing. I still had my restaurant, my home, my kids, my dignity, my future, and Derek had nothing. No career, no money, no family who respected him, no future worth looking forward to. He destroyed himself with his own arrogance and greed. I'm Naomi Chen. I'm 42 years old. 1 year ago at my divorce hearing, my husband walked up to me and said, "Today's my best day. I'm taking everything from you." His mistress smirked beside him, already spending my money in her mind. They thought they'd won before the hearing even started. But my lawyer leaned close and whispered, "Did you do exactly what I said? Good. The show starts now." And what a show it was. Derek had been hiding assets for 18 months. Secret bank accounts totaling $180,000, investment accounts worth $95,000, an offshore account in the Cayman Islands with $250,000. He'd lied to me about his bonuses for years. Pocketing the difference, he'd spent $75,000 of our money on his mistress' apartment, car, jewelry, cash gifts. He'd filed a false financial affidavit with the court, swearing under oath that he only had $400,000 when he actually had over $1 million. That's perjury. A felony. My forensic accountant found everything. Every hidden dollar. Every lie. Every fraudulent transfer. When the evidence came out in court, Derek's smug confidence shattered. The judge was furious. She referred him for criminal prosecution. She ruled that his massive fraud warranted disproportionate division of assets. Derek got almost nothing from 20 years of marriage. Lost the restaurant he tried to steal. I kept 95%, lost our home entirely. Punishment for his fraud. Ended up owing me $500,000. He had to pay child support and spousal support $7,000 a month, $84,000 a year, had to pay my legal fees, $85,000. He was convicted of perjury. Lost his career in finance. Ended up working retail, barely making enough to cover what he owed me. His mistress left him 2 weeks after the judgment. She'd been with him for the money. When that disappeared, so did she. And I learned 3 things through this nightmare that saved everything I'd built. First, I learned the warning signs that your spouse is hiding assets and why you can't ignore them. Looking back, the red flags were everywhere. I'd just been too trusting to see them. Unexplained cash withdrawals from our joint account. Derek claiming his work bonuses were smaller than they were. Expensive gifts showing up in photos of his mistress' jewelry, designer purses, that didn't match his claimed income. Secretive behavior about finances. Opening new accounts without mentioning them. Becoming defensive when I asked about money. These weren't just quirks. They were symptoms of systematic financial fraud. According to the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, nearly 30% of divorcing spouses attempt to hide assets. It's not rare, it's common. And it happens in every income bracket. If your spouse suddenly becomes secretive about finances, if spending doesn't match claimed income, if you discover accounts you didn't know existed, don't rationalize it away. Don't tell yourself you're being paranoid. Trust your instincts. Hire a forensic accountant before your spouse knows you're suspicious. The earlier you catch financial fraud, the more you can protect. In my case, catching it early meant the difference between losing half my business and keeping everything I'd built. Second, I learned why strategic preparation wins divorce cases. Not emotions, not who's morally right, just cold preparation. When I found those text messages between Derek and Simone, every fiber of my being wanted to confront him immediately. To scream. To demand answers. To tell everyone what he'd done. My lawyer told me to do the opposite: stay silent. Let him think I was oblivious. Document everything while he got arrogant and sloppy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Watching him brag about taking me for everything while I secretly built evidence against him. But that strategic patience won my case. Family courts don't care about emotions. They don't care who's the better person. They care about evidence, documentation, and proof. While Derek was celebrating his inevitable victory, I was documenting every hour I worked at my restaurant. Getting signed affidavits from 35 employees. Restructuring my business to protect my intellectual property. Hiring experts to trace his hidden money. Building an airtight case. By the time we got to court, Derek's lies collapsed under the weight of overwhelming evidence. If you're facing divorce, especially if there's significant assets involved, don't let emotions drive your strategy. Hire the absolute best divorce attorney you can afford. Listen to their advice even when it feels wrong. Follow their plan exactly. Strategic preparation beats emotional reaction every single time. Third, I learned that forensic accounting is the best money you'll ever spend in a contentious divorce. Martin Lee, the forensic accountant my lawyer hired, cost me $30,000. At the time, it felt like an enormous expense. Money I didn't have while fighting a divorce. But Martin found $600,000 Derek had hidden. That $30,000 investment returned 20 times its value. But more than that, it won my case. Forensic accountants can do things ordinary people can't. They can trace offshore accounts. They can detect patterns in spending that reveal hidden income. They can find assets your spouse thinks are untraceable. They can prove perjury in court. They can turn a divorce you're losing into a divorce you win decisively. If you have any suspicion at all that your spouse is hiding money, hire a forensic accountant immediately, before you file for divorce if possible. Definitely before you sign any settlement agreements. They're expensive. But they pay for themselves many times over. In divorce, information is power. And forensic accountants find information your spouse desperately wants to hide. If you're facing divorce with hidden assets or financial fraud, comprehensive resources including forensic accountant directories, divorce attorney referrals, and asset protection specialists are listed in the description below. Choose preparation over emotion. Choose evidence over assumptions. Choose experts over doing it yourself. Because in family court, the person with the best evidence wins. Not the person who's morally right. My ex-husband thought he was smarter than me. Thought his offshore accounts were untraceable. Thought his lies were believable. He underestimated forensic accountants. He underestimated perjury laws. And most fatally, he underestimated my willingness to fight for what I'd built. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there protect what they've built from someone who thinks they can take it.